Hello, my name is Jessica. Thank you for joining me. So in our practice today, we are going to talk a little bit about just knowing what to do when things seem a little uncertain. And in general, it seems that what is key is that we learn first and foremost how to trust ourselves. And in order to do that, we kind of have to learn to connect with ourselves so that we know what the sensations are that we're having and how to interpret them. So to that end, this practice is really going to spend a bit of time in each shape so that we have the opportunity to first learn to connect with our bodies, to connect with the sensations, with our breath, with whatever is presently happening in this moment, so that we then can begin to cultivate the strength, the power, the awareness of our internal messaging, so that when it comes to things off the mat, we also know what to do by just simply tuning in, tapping in, listening to whatever sensations we might be experiencing. So to that end, we're going to get started. Please make sure you've got 2 blocks and a blanket, and we're going to start in child's pose. So you can just go ahead and move your blocks to anywhere off of your mat, wherever it works for you. And if your knees are sensitive, you might use your blanket, otherwise you might remove that as well. But you'll draw both big toes to touch. You'll widen your knees a little bit wider than hips. And gaze to your hands and start to push your bum back towards your feet. Now, once you're seated pretty much on your heels, you might start to crawl your hands forward. And then as the hands inch away from the body, lower the head towards the floor, ears in line with your arms. Once you're in that position, you might start to press into the tips of your fingertips to lift the heels of the hands away from the floor, to lift up through the inner elbows and the inner armpits. And then press the fingertips down and forward to find more rootedness in the pelvis and the hips. And you'll just take 3 breaths here. And as you breathe here, see how low you can make the breath, how deep and how full you can make your breath. And what we learn by connecting with our body is that sensations are not something to be avoided. Instead, they are sources of inspiration, sources of information as well. If you haven't already, start to constrict the back of your throat and invite in a gentle Ujjayi pranayama. You'll let the breath be as loud, as audible as you need it to be. And as you continue to just focus on the sound of your breath, see where you can lengthen it out, where you can even it out. You might choose to stay here or gently lift your head a few inches away from the floor. Look towards your hands and then crawl your hands over to the right. Lower the head back down between the arms. Press down through your left pinky finger, left index finger, left hand. Drop back through your left hip. Soften the left shoulder towards the floor. Just take in a deeper breath into that whole left side body, noticing what you notice. Feeling into your sensation, into the breath, into the body. As you're ready, inhale, lift the head, look towards the hands, walk your hands all the way over to the other side. So over to your left, lower the head back in line with the arms, keep the arms shoulder distance apart, and then you'll push down and forward with the right fingers, lowering the right shoulder towards the floor, pressing back through your right hip, and then notice where the breath is on this side. Do you feel it in the ribs? Do you feel it in the belly? Do you feel it in the low back? Just starting to connect with your body. Maybe even mentally saying to yourself, my hands touching the floor, pressing into the floor. My shins pressing down into the floor. Awesome sauce. Go ahead and inhale, lift the head. Look towards the hands, walk your hands back towards center, and then you'll shift your weight forward to hands and knees. From here, go ahead and walk your knees so they're directly underneath your hips, and you'll take a moment to press down through the hands. Curl your toes under, drop your belly, lift your gaze, little baby cow shape, and then exhale, press through the floor, tops of the feet come to the floor, chin comes towards your chest. Cat pose. And you'll take that 4 more times on your own, inhaling, articulating the spine into an arched extension. And then exhaling, articulating the spine into an arched flexion. And as you take these last 3 on your own, you're just observing the weight of your hands into the mat. You're observing the weight of the knees, the shins, the tops of the feet into the mat. You're noticing where there's a sense of lightness and lift through the inner armpits, through the throat. And you're noticing where there's a sense of expansion on the back body. Last set, big inhalation into a little cow shape. And big exhalation into a little cat shape. Awesome. Next in-breath, go ahead and come to a neutral position. Root down into your right hand, sweep your left arm up towards the sky, and you'll just take 3 breath cycles here. You may choose to circle that top wrist, but you're again noticing what it feels like to push down into the bottom hand, to find length through the vertebra. You might need to draw your chin back as you reach up through the left arm. And then on your last inhalation here, find a little bit more length through the left arm, and as you exhale, curl, wrap that left arm underneath you, so the back of the left palm, the shoulder, the ears come to the mat. You might walk your right hand closer to your face or extend it further from your hips, but you've got 3 breath cycles here. You might tuck your chin towards your chest, press the back of the left hand, left arm thing into the floor, reach back through the left shoulder, but you're just noticing what you notice. Where is there sensation alive and alert within your body? And where can you start to allow things to soften, to surrender, to open? Nice work. Next in-breath, push down into that right hand, sweep your left arm up towards the sky. Notice if there's more twist. And then exhale, lower the left hand down. We'll go ahead and try that on the other side. So inhale, press through the left arm, reach up through the right. And you've got 3 breath cycles here. So you might just circle that top wrist. You might pay attention to how your left armpit shoulder region feels. Notice if you have to push down through the left hand anymore, if your head needs to turn down to the floor. It's a lot just information and insight. As you inhale this time, find more length through that right arm, and then exhale, wrap your right arm underneath you, bringing the back of the right shoulder, ear to the mat. Maybe walk your left hand closer to your face, maybe walk it further from your hips. You might press down into the back of your right hand, the back of your right shoulder. You should draw your right shoulder blade back behind you. And then notice what you notice. Where can you breathe deeper? Where is sensation quite sensitive or alert? Where is it a little bit more dull? Is it a little quieter? There's no right, there is no wrong. We're just starting to connect with the body, with the breath, with the being. All right. Inhale, push down through the left hand, sweep your right arm up. And then exhale, lower that arm down. Awesome sauce. From here, let's go ahead and tuck both sets of toes under. And you'll start to push your butt back towards your heels, just like we did for that child's pose. But this time you're gonna walk your hands back. So now your hands are roughly in front of your knees. You might wanna walk your knees a little bit closer towards each other so they're hip distance apart from you. And then you're gonna push through the hands to rock back onto the soles of your feet, coming into this weird ball malasana type of shape. And then you'll inhale, lower the knees down, arch through the spine, gaze forward, so you're in a weird cow lion-like shape. And then exhale, round through the spine, going back into the little ball. And you've got 4 more of these. And you're just noticing what this feels like as we start to articulate the spine. Finding movement in the ankles. And again, noticing my feet pressing into the floor. What does that feel like for you? Noticing what it feels like to press your hands into the floor to rock your pelvis back. Noticing what it feels like as the knees touch down and the heart lifts and the armpit armpits lift. And the last time, as we rock back into that little ball shape, you're just going to stay there for a moment. And you might shift around a little bit, and you're noticing what that does to your ankles, what that does to your breath. Very gently walk the hands back just an inch or so. Start to pour your head towards the floor to extend your legs up towards the sky. And then you're going to slowly, slowly, slowly bend one knee, just one knee. Noticing that the other leg straightens and your hips sway away from the straight leg. And then you'll bend just the other knee. And again, the hips sway away from the straightened leg. Noticing if there's tension in the neck, in the chest, if you're gripping the floor for dear life with your toes or your hands. And you'll just take that 3 more breath cycles on your own, slowly pedaling one way to the other, noticing if you can soften any gripping. Noticing first if there is any gripping to soften. All right. Once you feel pretty balanced between your right and your left sides, you'll go ahead and bend your knees once again, lowering them down to the floor. Now at this point, I would encourage you to take your blanket if you have it easily accessible, and you'll put the blanket underneath your knees. And then you might want to walk your feet towards each other just a little bit more, and you'll tuck your pinky toes under. Now for today, let's rock back so you feel most of the weight on the ball of your foot. So you feel that, and then shift your weight forward in order to lower the knees back down. So now the sensation is more across, hopefully, the sole of your foot. And then you'll go ahead and sit up nice and tall through the spine. And it's your choice of what the heck you want to do here with your arms. So you might interlace the hands behind you, draw the shoulder blades together, elbows straighten or not, arms reach away from your pelvis or down towards the floor. You might stay there. You might drop one ear to one shoulder, opening up the opposite scaling muscles of the neck. You might roll the head around. You might take eagle arms. You might just reach the arms up and overhead, but you're paying attention to how sensation is moving through your body. We're very animalistic in many ways, and we want to give ourselves permission to return to having our full ability to access all of our muscular, animalistic, mammalian information. And the reason sort of being is there's this thing called the vagus nerve. It's the 10th cranial nerve. And the fun thing about this is it says, or scientists say, I don't know for sure, but they say that if there are 10 messages sent, 9 of those messages go from your body to your brain, and 1 goes from your brain to your body via the vagus nerve. Okay, let's go ahead and come forward. Bring the tops of the feet to your floor. Pitter-patter your toes, having a happy little temper tantrum if you'd like. Conversely, you might shift your pelvis back and lift one end or both knees up and away from the floor to softly stretch the fronts of your feet and ankles, of course, if they permit. Back to the vagus nerve, though. Why this is important is if this vagus nerve, which has the ability to either excite you, bringing you to your sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze stage, or relax you, bringing you to your parasympathetic rest and digest phase. If 10 of those nerves, or rather 9 of those 10 nerves, are going from the body to the brain, that very much means that there's so much information that our body has to convey to our brain. And so it might behoove us not to pay attention to that. Okay, once you're ready, you'll go ahead and come forward, hands and knees. And then we're going to move on by bringing our blocks in between or up to the top of our space. And then you're going to step your left foot between your hands. Now, once your left foot is between your hands, you might want to wiggle walk that foot back and or slide back knee back a bit. Okay, and then you've just got 3 breath cycles to stay here. And I want you to just explore what it feels like to push into your front foot. Notice what it feels like to drop your chin towards your chest or reach your heart forward between the gates of your arms. And you're just paying attention to what feels good to you. And you're allowing the body to breathe. You're allowing the body to send information to the brain and adjust from there versus telling or having the brain tell the body what to do. Sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So we're just going to see how we're doing today when it comes to trust and trusting ourselves. Very often our minds can be, I don't know, our friends and our enemies all at the same time. So we want to reunite the strength of our minds to really pay attention to the sensations of our body. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. You might need to turn your blocks down a tick if you'd like. Bring your left hand to the outside edge of your left knee. Push your right hand down into the floor. Push your left foot down into the left foot down into the floor, right knee into the floor. And you'll start to scoop the belly on the left side. So now doing a gentle rotation to the left. So left armpit, it's reaching back, right arm, shoulder, ribs, reaching towards the inner left thigh. And you might stay here and be like, yep, that's great. You might sweep your left arm back and you're still pushing down through the limbs that are on the floor. You're breathing across the chest and heart stays open. Option to stay there and or bend the back knee. And notice what feels good here. Does it feel better to draw the hip towards the heel and the heel towards the hip? Does it feel better to kick the foot away from you? But you've got 2 more breath cycles here to just check in and notice what you notice. What sensations are the body or is the body sending to the brain? Awesome sauce. If you're holding that right foot, mindfully release it. Bring both hands to frame that front foot. Shift your weight back and start to straighten your front leg long. Now from here, you might need to walk your blocks back so they're underneath your shoulders. You might also find that you want to keep the sole of your left foot on the floor. You might want to peel the sole of your left foot away from the floor. But you've got 3 breath cycles here, so you'll just notice what feels good to you. Does having the knee bent feel good? Does having the sole of the foot pulling up feel better? And you're just pausing, you're breathing, you're noticing what you notice. And if the knee is bent on the front leg, it's bent just a little bit in order for you to keep your spine as long as possible. Awesome sauce. All right, go ahead and shift your weight forward. Plant the hands down in the lowest setting of the block, step your left foot back. And then we'll just go ahead and take our hands off the block, bring our hands back down to the mat. Now look back at your knees, make sure your thigh bones are perpendicular to the floor. Then look towards your hands and walk your hands about 1 foot apart. Then look back at your knees, look back at the thighs, make sure they're still perpendicular. And then you might look forward at your hands and walk your hands 1 more handprint or 2 handprints apart. Then you'll lower your head in between your arms. Again, we're hoping our thighs haven't moved too much. You might come to the tips of your fingertips, push the fingertips down and forward, lift the heels of the hands up, lift the elbows up, lift the armpits up, and wrap your triceps to the floor. And your forehead's reaching just forward and slightly down, or down and slightly forward. And it may touch, it may not. You've got 2 more breath cycles here. You're just observing where your toes touching the floor, where the knees touching the floor, where the low belly, how is that moving in relationship to gravity? Very gently, go ahead and lift the gaze. Start to walk the hands back so they're underneath your shoulders, and then bring one hand onto a block, the other hand onto a block, and you'll step your opposite leg, so your right leg through your hands. And then again, you've got 3 breath cycles here. So you'll just pause and you breathe and you'll notice what you notice. Does it feel better to let the head hang towards the floor? Does it feel better to let it reach forward? Does it feel good to back out of the lunge just a little bit? Or does it feel better to allow the pelvis to slide forward? And again, you're just mitigating this based on the information, the signals that you're getting from the body versus whatever directions you think you might need to be getting from the mind. You got 1 more breath cycle here. Awesome sauce. If the blocks are on the highest setting, you might turn them down a tick. Then bring your right hand to the outside edge of your right knee. Press the right knee out. Push the right hand in. Press down into your right foot. Press down into your left knee. Suck those points together. And then you'll start to scoop the belly on the right side to rotate the left rib cage in towards the inner right thigh. And again, you'll see, can you keep that left side body long, the left armpit lifted? You might keep the right hand as it is or reach the right arm back parallel to the floor. You might stay there, scooping the belly on the right side to rotate even more through the ribs. You might bend the back knee and grab the back heel. And then on this side, does it feel good to kick the foot back? Does it feel good to draw the hips and the heels towards each other? You're paying attention to where the sensation is moving across the belly of your left thigh. One more breath cycle here. Awesome sauce. If you're holding that back foot, gently release it. Bring both hands to frame the front foot. Start to shift your butt back and straighten your front leg long. Walk the blocks back if need be. Notice if it feels good to keep the sole of your right foot to the floor, or if you want to peel the sole of the foot up and away from the floor. I didn't say this on the first side, but sometimes it feels good to externally rotate that leg, meaning you turn the right pinky toe from the whole right leg to the right. Sometimes it feels good to internally rotate that right leg, meaning you're turning your right toes towards the left upper corner of your mat, but you're just noticing what feels good to you. Bodies are very smart. There are certain things that frighten us and they don't feel so good, but oftentimes if we can remember to calmly breathe, if we can remember to just check into the sensations of the body and let them be as they are, they'll often shift of their own accord. All right, let's go ahead and come back to center. Shift your weight forward. Plant both palms on the mat and then tuck the back toes under. Straighten the back leg long, step back, downward facing dog. So here's our first down dog. And I want you to just notice first and foremost what happens if you bend your knees a little bit. What happens if you push down through the L shape of your hand? Is the weight even in the index fingers, all the way through the pinky fingers, from the tips of the fingers into the mounds of the palms? Do you notice if you can lift up through your armpits and rock your triceps to the floor? And then from there, can you push the shoulder blades down and forward in towards the hands to lift the hips a little higher? And then notice what it feels like to maybe lift all 10 toes of your toes or of your feet. Press the back of the mounds down, reaching the heels back, and maybe you start to straighten the legs or half straighten the legs, or maybe the legs are still completely bent. You might then lower the toes down to the floor if they're not. And you'll just take 3 breath cycles here, noticing what you notice, feeling the weight, the power of the hands, the weight, the power of the legs, the lift, the buoyancy of the spine, of the belly, of the breath. Awesome sauce. So let's go ahead and inhale, come back to hands and knees. Grab one of your blocks, slide it between your inner upper thighs, whatever setting works best for you. And then you'll start to lift your bum up and back, downward facing dog once again. Now we're going to see if we can shift forward into plank. So start to shift your weight forward, lift up through those happy inner armpits as you go. And then you might find that your butt feels a lot pinched a lot higher than it normally is pitched. So you'll pause and you'll push down into the tips of the fingertips and knuckle pads. Lift up through the palm of the hands and the wrist so that feels light. Lift up through the inner armpits, lift up through the inner thigh, and lengthen your tailbone back. Now lightly squeeze the block, squeeze your glutes, draw the core in by lengthening tailbone back even more. Pivot on the belly button. Take one more breath in here. Next exhale, bend the knees, lift the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Hooray. Now as best as you can, you might just stay here. You might lower your knees towards the mat, but you're going to remove that block and return back to downward facing dog as best as you can. Great. Let's go ahead and add on. So walk your feet so they're about hip distance apart. Inhale, sweep your left leg up and back. And we're going to stay here for about 2 breath cycles. So make sure your toes and your left knee are putting straight down to the mat. See if you can draw your outer right hip back. Keep lifting through your inner armpits and then taking a deeper breath. Say hello to your right calf. Noticing if your neck is crunched a bit or if it's in line with your spine. And on your next exhale, you'll start to step that left leg quietly between your hands. Now, once the left leg comes between your hands might then come back towards your block, but you'll pause here. Bring your fingertips to the tips of your block if you're using them, or just tips of the floor. Draw that outer left hip back, lift up through that inner right thigh, and reach your crown forward. Awesome sauce. You might stay here. You might bring your left hand to the outside edge of your left knee. Again, push left hand into left knee into left hand, scoop belly on the left side, rotate ribs on the right side to the left. And take a moment to pause. Weight is still light on that right hand. Inhale, sweep your left arm up. And you'll pause and you'll breathe. Hug the outer right hip in, reach the heart forward and lean back. Nice job. Next exhale, go ahead and lower the left hand back down. Step your back foot in a little bit. Spin the foot to the floor. And then notice that again, you might still be on the tips of those fingertips. You might need to walk your blocks back. You might stay completely there. You might peel the sole of your left foot up. You might reach the heart and sternum forward. You've got 3 breaths. Excuse me, 3 breaths to be here. And whether your spine is parallel to the floor or your sternum is mounting towards your shin, whether that left foot is up towards the floor, the sole of the foot is on the floor, you're pausing and you're breathing and you're noticing what your body is telling you, how it's feeling, how it's responding to your breath, how your breath is feeding the body. Awesome sauce. All right, let's go ahead and bend that front knee, shift your weight forward, plant your palms, and step back, downward facing dog. And just take a moment to check in. How's the right side? How's the left side? How are you doing? Great. We'll go ahead and try the other side. So feet are hip distance apart. Inhale, sweep your right leg up and back. Make sure the toes and the knee point straight down. Draw that outer left hip back, lengthen tailbone back, low belly in, armpits lift and breathe. Noticing if you can keep those hips pretty square as you find long, fun sensation happening down that left leg. Awesome sauce. Next exhale, let's step your right foot between your hands. Hands might come now to blocks. They might stay on the floor, but you're going to come to your fingertips. And you're going to see if you need to inchworm that back leg back a little bit. So you're a real long lunge. Press down into your front foot. Push down into the back foot. Hug your outer hips together. And you might stay there with the heart reaching forward, spine super long. You might bring the right hand to the right side of your right thigh, pressing knee into hand, hand into knee, scooping belly on the right side to wrap left ribs in. And then inhale, sweep your right arm up. Take a moment to pause and breathe. Heart reaches forward and head leans back. Next exhale, lower the right hand down to the mat, down to the block. Step your back foot in, spin the back foot down. And then you might need to walk the blocks back so they're underneath your shoulders. You might stay there with both feet on the floor. You might shift the weight back so you peel the sole of your right foot off the floor. You might keep the spine more or less parallel to the floor or reach your sternum down towards your right shin. But you've got 3 breath cycles doing whatever you happen to be doing. And you're just pausing and you're breathing. Last one. Awesome sauce. Go ahead and inhale, shift your weight forward. Plant your palms and step yourself back, downward facing dog. Okay, now from down dog, let's go ahead and come forward, hands and knees. Grab your block if you'd like. You put your block right back between your upper thighs. You'll squeeze the block, you'll lift your legs, and now this time we're in plank pose. And you're going to push down, lift up through the inner armpits, lengthen the tailbone back. Next in breath, shift your weight forward a little bit, spread wide through the hands, and notice where you can soften here. Notice where you can fortify here. What is the sensation that you're receiving in this body, and how are you reacting to that? How are you responding to that? Next in breath, shift the weight forward. As you exhale, little baby push up. And then lower the knees back down. Remove your block. And then we're going to make our way to the top of our mat. So you have a number of ways of doing this. You can step back to down dog You'll press back to down dog and help or step towards your hands, or from hands and knees. You might just simply put your hands on the blocks and step to the top of your space so that you're now at the top of your space in a forward fold. So we started in this shape somewhat when we were at the back of our mat. Now here you might clasp opposite elbows and notice that that enables you to find a little bit more weight. And the weight might give you more sensation. Then I want you to notice how the feet are pressing into the floor. Is the weight in the front of the foot, in the back of the foot, the inner or the outer edge of the foot? How is your neck responding? Is it crunched up or is it long and loose? And then does it feel good for you to stay still, or do you want to move around a little bit? I think one of the things that causes us, and myself most particularly, so much confusion in terms of knowing whether or not I can trust my inner state, my inner feeling, is this idea that I'm at war with whatever sensations are present. You know, there's this inability to just accept and embrace them the way that they are, and instead some weird desire to change them. But I think if we can just notice sensations as they are, trust that they're there for a reason, it will give us a better capacity to allow those sensations to teach us and then change when they're ready, when they feel they've been heard and respected. Okay, so if you're in movement, please go ahead and come to stillness. Slide a block between your shin bones on the first for the second setting, and then inhale, lift your spine parallel-ish to the floor. Press your shins into your hands, your palms into your shins, and then see if you can spread your collarbones as you spread your sit bones. From here, exhale and fold all the way back in, chin towards the chest, belly away from the thighs. Inhale, bend the knees, keep the fingertips on the floor, curl the shoulder blades back, press into the heels, and then draw your hands to your heart center. Start to bring the spine up to vertical as you sit low through your legs, and then notice if you can draw the shoulder blades back, reach the heart up, take in a deep breath. And you might stay here for Utkatasana, chair pose. You might reach your arms forward like happy little zombies. You might reach the arms up and overhead, but you choose whichever option works best for you. And you've got 2 more breath cycles there. Noticing the sensation in the feet, noticing the sensation on the legs, and the core and the heart and the spine. Awesome sauce. Inhale, stand up, reach up, look up. And notice what it feels like to wiggle around here. As you're ready, you'll exhale and release your hands down through the center to the sides of your body. We'll go ahead and move on. So let's go ahead and remove that block from in between our thighs, or in between our shins. And you can still face the top of your space, but you're going to bend your left knee. Draw your right hand to your right hip and grab your left foot. So now it's behind you. Now, I want you to look down and see if you can draw your knees towards each other. Floint, Barbie flex through that back foot, and then start to kick your left foot away from you. And then you might drop your right ear over to your right side of your body. And so this is just a gentle stretch for the neck. We're trying to engage the core and find balance on the right leg. Awesome sauce. Okay, go ahead and draw the heel closer to your bum, knees straight down, and then notice that that changes the sensation on the front of your left leg. And you might need to bring a slight bend into your right leg. And then gently you'll release that, and we'll try it on the other side. So shift all the weight onto your left leg, left hand to left hip, right hand to right ankle. And then you'll Barbie floint that back foot. And then you're just seeing if you can draw the knees towards each other. So right knee draws back, might bend your left knee a little bit. Kick the right foot into the left hand. Drop the left ear over, whoa, to the left side of your neck. And if you find that you've gotten off balance a little bit in doing that, it's okay, you're in good company. The body tells us things. And so we're just listening, we're responding to the information that's being delivered versus the information we might be fabricating. And then gently, you'll come back to center. Start to hug your right heel closer to your pelvis, tailbone lengthens down, Knees draw towards each other, heart lifts up, shoulder blades onto the back. So some sauce, okay. Just gently release back. Now, this one, I encourage you to bring both of your blocks towards the top corner of your mat and to set them up on the top setting. You don't need to do that, but it definitely helps. So you'll now shift your weight over to your right leg, float your left leg in front of you this time, flex through your left foot so the toes are pulling up towards your knee, and then start to bend your right knee as you cross your left ankle over. You'll start to send your pelvis back, spreading wide through your sit bone, and your hands might stay here at your hips. Your hands might come to heart center. Your hand might reach towards those blocks on the floor, maybe even towards the floor and touch the floor. But the more you bend that right knee, the more you flex through that left foot, you'll find a fine stretch happening on the outside edge of your left hip. And then you'll just pause and you'll breathe. You'll notice what happens if you lift or slightly lower that left knee. Where do you feel more sensation? How is your breath responding? How are you responding? One more breath cycle here. Awesome sauce. If the hands are on the blocks, you'll start to return them to heart center. And then you'll start to come up, descend, floating that left leg up, and then releasing the left foot to the floor. And then just take a moment to pause. What do you notice between the sides? Where do you notice your breath? Where do you notice your mental gaze? How is the body doing? Okay, now we'll go ahead and try the other side. So shift all the weight into your left leg, float your right leg up, hands might return to hips, and then flex through that right foot so the toes are pulling up towards the right knee. Start to bend your left leg, cross the right ankle over, and hinge at the hips, so sending your butt back. And I'm noticing that for today, balancing on my left side, my actual right leg, your left leg, is not working out for me so well, and that's okay. Hands might stay at heart center. They might reach down towards the floor or the blocks beneath you. But we'll just notice what's happening on this side. How is the breath? Oftentimes, when we do something on one side and then we go to the other side, we can tend to judge how the experience is different. It's just sensation. The body loves the whole body. It doesn't say, oh, I really like my right leg more than my left. It loves the whole body. So how can we love the whole body? The body's an organism, and the sensations are part of how our organism maintains homeostasis. So we want to see how we're doing with that. Breath is also how the organism maintains homeostasis, so make sure you're doing that as well. Okay. If hands are on blocks, start to return them to heart center. And then you'll inhale and come back up. One-legged Tadasana, Ekapada Tadasana, nice job. And then release that foot to the floor. Release both hands down. Soften the gaze, close the eyes, whatever feels best to you so that you can reconnect. You can notice the sensations in your being. Okay, the eyes are closed, gently open them. Hands come to hips. Let's just start to hinge forward at our hips. You'll get about halfway, all the way there. You might then move your blocks, plant your hands, and then step one leg back and the other leg back to come to hands and knees. Draw your big toes to touch. Open knees as much as you need to, and start to push your bum back towards your heels. Walk the arms forward, lower the head towards the mat. And then you just pause and breathe here. And we started in this shape, so notice what feels alive and alert and active right here, right now. How does the breath feel to you? How does the body feel to you? Last breath cycle here. Awesome sauce. All right, lift the head. Come forward to forearms and knees. So when you come to forearms and knees, first grab opposite elbow, and then plant your elbow so they're underneath your shoulders. From here, you can extend the arms forward into a prayer position. And you're going to press the palms into each other, press the pinky fingers down Lift the elbows a little bit, slide them towards each other, and then push down and slide apart. So you'll feel that your skin claps or grabs, traps the mat a little bit. Then from there, you might walk your knees back so they're underneath your hips, and then you'll take your cats and your cows in this shape. And we're just noticing if we can move slowly and mindfully. We've been reading a book by Peter Levine, who's a trauma specialist. He talks a lot about how slow movement helps us decouple the sensations of the body from whatever traumatic experience might have evoked them. But if we move super quickly through things, we cause patterns to not only intensify and build, but they get locked in that position, in that pattern, in that habit. The next time you round into your spine, you'll pause. Make sure your shoulders are directly over your elbows. Go ahead and curl both toes under, and then push down into the pinky fingers, the forearms, lift up through your happy inner armpits. And you might start to walk your feet towards your face, lifting up through armpits, pushing down through forearms, pushing down through pinky fingers, lifting up through hips, drawing front ribs back, inner armpits back. And you're pausing, you're breathing, and you're noticing what you notice as we're hearing dolphin pose. Awesome sauce. Very gently lower the knees back down. And then release to embryo pose. So shins together, thigh bones together. Hands swing back, forehead comes to the mat. And you just see how that feels for a breath cycle or two. From there, your hands will come underneath you. Underneath your shoulders, you'll press your spine up to sit. Okay, and then we'll bring our butt to the floor. So move your butt to the floor, your legs are long. And then just do a gentle, simple twist. So you might need to elevate your pelvis on your blanket. Okay, so great. Then you'll just cross your left leg over your right, flex through your right foot. You might stay here happy as a clam. You might draw your left knee on top of your right. You might stay there happy as a clam. You might bend your right knee so your right foot swings outside of your left ankle, left hip. And if you do that, you'll want to lift your pelvis up and slide it to the right. And then you might stay here happy as a clam. And any of the leg variations we've taken so far, well, with the exception of the one being straight up, you can stay there or you can start to walk your spine forward. And you're just paying attention to how the breath is moving in the body. And in any of the positions that we're in, we're targeting our outer left hip. So if the spine is still vertical, you can hug that left shin towards you. If the right leg is still straight and long, you can still fold forward if you'd like to find an outer right or outer left hip stretch. And if both knees are bent as mine are for Gomukhasana, you definitely have found that possibly outer left hip stretch. And then you're just noticing the sensations. There are acting teachers the world over that say that our emotions are like water that comes out of a single spigot. We can't, turn on one without turning on all of them. Meaning, some of the feelings might feel good. Some of the feelings might not feel so good, but to feel anything, you have to be open to feeling some of the good stuff and some of the not so good stuff. So maybe that's perhaps why there's so many messages sent from the body up to the brain. Because it's the stuff that feels good, the stuff that tells us everything's safe, everything's wonderful, and it tells us something's a little off. You need to adjust, you need to change. Sometimes discerning those messages can be hard for our brain, so we attempt to control or direct things that we can't always control or direct. You've got one more breath cycle as you are. And very gently, you'll start to walk your way out of the shape. So if you were folded forward, you'll bring your spine up. If your right leg was bent, you'll extend it long. If your left thigh was crossed over, you'll uncross that leg. And then with both legs long, you might take some ankle circles, you might take some wrist circles, you might take some shoulder and neck circles. You're just paying attention to what your body's needing. And then when you're ready, you're going to try the other side. So draw your right knee in, cross your right foot over, and flex through that left foot. So you might stay here happy as a clam, just pulling that knee towards your chest. You might stack your right knee on top of the left. Again, you can stay here and just fold forward. You might bend that left knee and draw the left hip or left heel outside of the right hip. And if you do that, lift your pelvis and slide it a little bit towards your left. And then you might just stay there, noticing the side is its own entity, and you might already be getting stuff on your outer right hip. You might start to hinge at your hips, drawing the top of the sacrum forward towards the right thigh, and you might fold forward over your legs. And then again, you just check in, and you notice on this side, do you feel stuff happening in the same spot on the opposite leg as you did on the first side, or is it somewhere else? Do you feel more compression in the front of the body? Do you feel more stretch and opening on the back outer edge of the legs of the body? Is there tension in the shoulders, in your neck, in your jaw, in your eyeballs? Is your breath steady and smooth, or just a little bit jagged or rough anywhere? Having the sensation and noticing the sensation are wonderful, but it doesn't mean anything is wrong. Just allow it to be there and allow ourselves to be with whatever is present with us. Trusting that, in the words of Patrice Gordon, something that's meant for me will not miss me. A lot of our sensations, or at least speaking for myself, are anxiety related. They're related to this idea that I've missed something, if something's not working out, if I'm not doing something a particular way, or if I feel a particular way, then that means something's wrong. It might not be that case. The things that are meant for us will not miss us, and so we don't need to fret and worry so much. We don't need to control and direct everything. We don't need to manipulate our experience of ourselves, of the world around us. Okay, you've got 2 more breath cycles here. And you're just observing where you can soften a little bit more, where you can relax just a little bit more. And then very gently, you'll start to walk your way out of the shape. So if you're folded in, the hands will walk back towards the pelvis to bring the spine up. Hands might shift back behind you to extend the right leg long, and then maybe extend the left leg long. And then any last little movements you wish to do. And then we're going to spin our butts around and bring ourselves onto our backs. And when you find yourself on your back, this is the first time you've been supine the whole time. So I want you to just see how the body lands when you land. Do you want your legs straight? Do you want your knees bent? Do you want the soles of the feet on the floor, or would you rather have them touching each other if the knees are bent? And you're just going to take a moment to pause. You're going to take a moment to breathe. And as you check in here, observe if there's any final shape or shapes that your body feels like it needs to wind down. And then when you feel complete and set with that, we will make our way to our final shape, which for today, I encourage you to take Supta Baddha Konasana. Use the blocks to support the outer edges of the thighs, and depending upon how warm or cool your environment is, you might want that blanket on the pelvis or covering the body. And then you'll spread wide through your shoulder blades. And you might bring a hand to the heart and a hand to the belly, let the eyes soften and close. You might let the arms continue to open out to the right and to the left. And then as you settle into this final shape, I encourage you to just check in with your body. Notice where there's the ability of the body to gently just let go into the support beneath it. And if you need to adjust, by all means adjust. The body is quite brilliant, so we want to respond to its messages, to its impulses. Once you've adjusted, if you've adjusted, you'll just notice the weight of the hand on the chest if it's there. Notice the weight of the hand on the belly if it's there. And if your hands are still open to the side, you can just notice the chest and the belly without the weight of the hands. But you'll notice where it feels better for you to focus your attention. Does it feel better to focus the attention in the belly? Does it feel better for you to focus your attention on the heart space? And you just let your attention rest there as you continue to breathe in, as you continue to breathe out. When I say this, the encouragement is to allow the body to breathe. So there's no need for the mind to direct this. So when the body needs a breath, it'll take a breath in. When the body's ready to let go of the breath, it'll take a breath out. From a tantric perspective, this speaks to the more subtle aspects of prana. Prana draws the breath in when it's ready to enter the body, and prana draws the breath out when it's ready to leave the body. And so you're just observing the flow of your breath, flow of prana, life force, vitality in this moment. Trusting that nothing is wrong, no matter what the sensation may be. In this moment, you are safe and grounded and loved and nurtured in your practice. And to return your attention to your breath. As you return, notice if there's any part of you that longs to linger in this shape for a few more moments or a few more breath cycles. And if so, by all means, just hang out here as long as you'd like. When you are ready to move, you'll invite small movement into the physical form and reawaken in whatever way feels best to you. Maybe stretching, wiggling, and yawning a bit. Begin to make your way over to your right side. And then from there, you'll roll your chest more towards the floor. Press into your left hand to free your right hand. And draw yourself up to a tall, comfortable seat. Might elevate your bum on a block or a blanket. Then I encourage you to take the opportunity to sit super well, maybe separating the sit bones, stacking shoulders over hips, ears over shoulders. And then in this position, you just take a few steady breaths here. Notice what it feels like to allow the body to be still in this position. Notice which sensations arise, maybe in the belly, in the throat, in the ribs, and the chest. It's a very interesting phenomenon that in order to trust ourselves, we have to trust ourselves. And in order to trust ourselves, we also need to connect with ourselves, to love ourselves and all the sensations, the thoughts, the feelings, the experiences that we have, and most importantly, the ones that we do not have. And the more that we can allow things to be as they are, the more we can allow ourselves to be as they are, and the more that we can trust in the greater order, sense of how things are. So as you take these last few breath cycles here, I encourage you to say a few internal prayers of gratitude to the being that you are, the body that you have, the life that you're living. So that we can more fully step into that ability to trust that what is meant for us will not miss us, that no aspect of life is ever wasted or not what we need for a given period of time. Go ahead and draw your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of your thumbs into your sternum and lift your heart towards your hands. Allow all the breath to exit through your mouth. Take a big breath in. Audible breath out. Inhale for Om, join if you'd like. To that light, to that love, to that wisdom and that guidance, we bow. Namaste. Well, thank you for joining me. If you have a great rest of your day, please let me know if you have any questions or comments. Until next time, thank you.